Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker. We're ready to taste another tea as usual. A white tea today from China. White teas, they may have gotten their feet off the ground in China. There are lots of places now that are offering white teas. And to say that a tea tastes like a white tea can have a broader range of meanings right now. There are Kenyan white teas, there are Sri Lankan white teas. And as more areas open up to the growth or cultivation of teas, that definition may continue to expand, or that taste profile, I should say. So I put in enough of my tea here to cover that bottom inch to inch and a half diameter there. My water's been brought to a pretty low boil and it's been cooling. So I'm adding enough water to sit above the rim of the lid. Now I could, because this is a white tea and because it's a little more delicate, I could not put my lid on, and that would be a good idea if you were wanting to be more gentle with this tea, but I want to kind of stretch it and test it out. So I'm putting the lid on, let it steep for a minute or two. As I talk and kind of introduce this tea, this is from GrandTea. This is their organic white down silver needle. It's originally from Fuding area of Fujian province in China. You can find 25 grams available for $6. This is an April 2011 harvest, and this is an organic tea. Now, organic has to be certified by someone or some organization. And this particular one is the OTRDC. That is a China-based organization, or organic certification organization. It's a research center is what the RC there stands for, or the the RDC, Research Development Center. So that's a little bit about this tea. I'm going to talk about the aspects of the tea again, and again with white teas, and especially with Chinese white teas. The challenge is always to compare a Chinese white or a Chinese silver needle to a Chinese silver needle. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this tea. I open it up. You see me opening and closing quite a bit here. I'm trying to build up some aromas in there, but then on the other hand, you've got to also open it up because that kind of awakens the leaves if they've been sealed off for a while. So aromas, as far as I'm getting here, I'm getting some things like there's a little bit of a clover in there. There's something in there that kicks into my mind. There's the allspice, and I get that allspice smell from like a sweet pickle brine. Homemade sweet pickles often had a nice blend of allspice, clove, kind of sweet yet spicy. That kind of spice coming out there. Other things, I'm getting a little. Again, there's more of a I don't want to say grass, but there's a natural herb. There's dandelion coming out that's kind of light, kind of faint there as well. Looking at these leaves, I'll actually use my spoon. That may be a little bit more convenient here. Scooping out a few of these leaves and just looking at them. Length, I see several that are an inch. Several of those go beyond an inch and a half or so. They're quite fuzzy, lots of nice fuzz on there. The fuzz is pretty, for the large part, fairly thick, whitish in color, silvery white in color. These leaves, in comparison to some others, have a bit more, leaning a little bit more towards the green. And other things that I'm noting here, just as I look at a glance at the tips of these leaves, whether that's the tip of the leaf or the base of the leaf where it was connected to the plant. In some of both cases, actually, I'm seeing some darker color, almost like a dark brown type color, which was either some oxidation that took place where that crimping, cutting action took place. The straight edge indicates that there was some kind of blade, whether that was in a hand tool or some kind of machine, probably a hand tool, scissor type snips. Whether it was that actual oxidation or the reaction to the heat, a heat source that gave that a little bit of a brownish tinge there, or a combination of both could be taking place there. I lean more towards, given the way the low heat that's often used with white silver needles like this, I'm going to tend to assume that that's more of a oxidation coloration there. So we'll go ahead and pour now. Get my lid over to the side. I like using the Guy one. It gives a fairly consistent, fairly smooth pour after you've developed some practice and some skill with that. So let me set that to the side. I want to before I get into the the liquor there, I do want to talk about this wet leaf. There's still a clover type smell coming off of here. There's no, you could get, I've had dandelion tea. I've actually gone to be a guest at someone's home who actually knew how to collect, they actually went out, they harvested the dandelion flowers, they made a tea out of that. There's a little bit of that aroma coming out here, a little bit of still that dandelion. It's light, it's not as sweet as a full dandelion blossom or head, so that's not there. But there is something kind of clover, dandelion still coming out of this. Not a lot of vegetable notes, which are like green bean, not any lima bean. Those often come out more with tea that's more heat has been applied to it. Looking at these leaves, they have become more of a green color. I'm going to push, well, that one's fairly useful. That one's got a little bit, it's unfurled some. You've got a leaf that's kind of coming off the side. And you can see a little bit of brown area on that leaf, suggesting that a little bit of oxidation took place. Let me pull out just one or two more, another intact needle there. Again, a little brownish tinge there on that one, but then you also have some nice bright green ones there as well. Here's just a pair and put side by side here as well. So let me throw those on there. So you got a nice range of those green color there, a little bit of the oxidation that I mentioned there before, getting to a light, fairly pale brown there as well. So that's our wet leaf. I'm going to go on and talk about this liquor for a moment. Give that a swirl here. This is a pale yellow, moving over towards a little bit of a heavier yellow. So there is a bit more of the yellowish tinge there. You can see the filaments, maybe some of that golden fuzz, that down that's come off of the leaves. It's floating in the liquor there. It's got a sweet, I think of like a freshly cut or freshly baled straw. It's not as much of the green. The difference between straw and hay, a straw, a lot of the juices have dried out of that, so it's not as far as for an animal goes, it's not as much nutritional content. Yet there is still a little bit of that dried grass, hay type of smell. So this is, again, light, strawy type notes coming off of this. Looking down, I should mention this, looking down through the liquor, this is not, and I'm using a different cup than what I often use, but this one's still useful. You get a deeper perspective here. It's got good clarity. It's not as bright as the others that I've seen, as far as just the brightness that reflects off of the liquor here. Straw notes still dominating. A little bit of a little bit more of a sweeter note coming out. Think of a cucumber. Got a little bit of a fresh, raw, room temperature cucumber can have a little bit of a light kind of drying feel on the back, especially if it's one of those that has more of the larger, more intense seeds in it. So it's got a little bit of this cucumber aspect, still some of the straw coming out. Texture-wise goes a little bit, I would say this one's a little heavier on texture-wise as far as the feel in the mouth, the coating. A fairly strong and longer lasting aftertaste. It's still those same flavor components, the straw, a little bit of that cucumber, those are still holding on there, filling out the mouth, building up, and it's got a bit of more of a sweeter aftertaste. That sweetness is starting to build up, and again, this is a sweet, fresh, summer raw cucumber type of sweetness that's building up there in the back. So as I look at this tea, it's got a bit more of a deeper, richer yellow color, and I suspect that some of that is due to what we talked about in those dry leaves and those wet leaves, that those brown edges, those brown tips, because what's happening is when that oxidation takes place, you're moving from a white tea characteristics or components. That oxidation means there's even an infinitesimal type of element of oolong or green or even black. You know, whenever you have that oxidation, you're moving towards further along that spectrum towards black. So that component is peppering and flavoring this whole output of the leaf and this whole infusion that we have. So I look at this tea with those components, still nice, full, kind of thicker, heavier texture. And I would give this tea an 89. Nice components, full components, but those components are affected by an extra element, is the best way I could say that. So come back to Walker Tea Review to look at these teas as they are and as they compare to the whole range of things like white tea.